Tatia. Now, this story. South Africa's unemployment rate is said to have fallen to 33.9% in the second quarter of 2022. This is a 0.6% decline from 4.5% in the first quarter. Despite this, unemployment continues to be an issue, especially among young people and women. Now, Stats SA reporting that women make up 49% of the unemployed, and black women are most affected. I mean, 49% is almost half. So how do we break down barriers that prevent women from taking their seat at the decision-making table and women getting into employment? After all, we are ending Women's Month. Let's find out now from Farai Mubaiwa from the Youth Employment Service. She's a Chief Partnership Officer there. That's a very important title, I guess. Good afternoon, Farai. It's not a good picture, and we've known this for quite some time. In fact, I guess it came to the fore during the first year of COVID-19 lockdowns, where we were told that 2 million South Africans had lost jobs in that time of the COVID-19 pandemic during the lockdowns, and that more than 60% of them were women. So the majority of women are bearing the brunt of unemployment.
You're absolutely right. And I think that while we can celebrate a decrease in the unemployment stats that we see, we do have to be aware that we have a crisis that's on our hands. And we have to look at how do we combat this crisis, and especially how do we then remove the barriers that women face in terms of being able to access these opportunities. And there's a number of things which can be said about what these barriers are. Number one would be looking at what are some cultural norms and ideas we have which actually stop women from accessing these opportunities for employment. Number two would be looking at where are we providing access to information for women to be able to see what employment opportunities, entrepreneurship opportunities are there and are available as well. And the third is to actually look at the fact that networks play such an important role in enhancing one's employability. And if you have grown up within an area where you don't have many networks who can show you what employment looks like, or actually women can work, women can do absolutely anything. If you don't have those networks, and it's very difficult for you to actually grow and succeed within your career. So there's so many barriers which actually prevent women from being able to access employment opportunities. But I think what's important is that we are aware of the barriers. We now then have to say, how do we overcome these barriers? And there's a number of initiatives which we have done at YES in terms of how we overcome the barriers.
I'm fascinated. We want to speak about that, but I'm just fascinated about the fact that you've identified cultural practices as a barrier in a country where a majority of households are female-headed, and we know how patriarchal our society is. Can you just unpack that one first for us? What are these barriers culturally?
So, I mean, one could write a thesis in terms of what these barriers are and also how they look like. However, I think when we speak about the barriers which exist for culture, we look a lot at the gendered norms. So a lot of the cultures we carry are gendered in terms of how they segment the role of women and the role of men. And as a result, a lot of young girls grow up having the belief that it's my role in life just to be a wife, and that's it. And that can be a role that women have, but there are so many complexities and shapes and sizes we take as women. And as a result, we have to look at how do we broaden the role that women play? And also, how do we recognize work that women do, which is expected of them, but is not actually seen as valuable work. And that's things like care within the home, looking after the children, cleaning up the house. That is care work that we have not valued because it's what women do. And yet, if other genders were doing that work, we would value it in terms of the role it plays within the economy. So we definitely have to be aware in terms of, yes, culture is absolutely important, but how do we broaden culture to recognize that women play multiple roles within our societies. And how do we then analyze and remove gender barriers from different roles that women can play? So, for example, if a young girl has grown up within the community, and this was actually an event with the city of Johannesburg I went to on Friday, and within the community, your soccer players are only men, that's then the belief that young women will carry, not recognizing that as a young woman, if I'm interested in soccer, I too can be involved. And when we have the likes of Banyana winning and doing incredibly well, that's how we can see that, hang on, this does not have to be a gendered sport. I can play my role as a young woman within the sport. I can overcome this barrier, but it's about being able to access these numerous opportunities. And I think that's where and the different partnerships we have plays a critical role.
Yeah, we don't have much time left. That was on culture. Thank you very much for answering it so comprehensively. You've mentioned access to information. You've mentioned the importance of networks that can enhance employability. Now, as the Youth Employment Service, just from your name, I would presume you will be focusing on young women, particularly black women, because they are worse off when it comes to unemployment in the country today.
Absolutely. And I'll very quickly tell you what we do at the Youth Employment Service. The Youth Employment Service is a business-driven nonprofit organization. We work with the private sector to create jobs for young people at scale. In the past 3.5 years, we've created over 83,000 work experience opportunities for unemployed youth. 58% of the beneficiaries of the YES program are indeed young Black women. 88% of the young people on the YES program come from grant recipient households. And we've been very much intentional in terms of focusing on creating opportunities for young Black women and also creating non-conventional opportunities for them. We've got young women who are drone pilots. We've got young women who are doing coding within schools, within the communities they come from. We've got young women who are manufacturing sanitary pads, mobile cell phones, and we've been really strategic in terms of how do we create opportunities for young women in spaces which are considered unconventional spaces, so that we can really show young women the value that they have. We can really degender these often gendered roles and industries where we as women can find ourselves in. And also more so, we know from research, we know from history that the more employment opportunities you give to women, the more impact there is on the community at large. So it's not just an impact in terms of the household the woman comes from, but also the community that they are in. So we absolutely look forward to increasing the number of opportunities we can provide young women with. We've worked a lot with the presidency in terms of mapping out high growth industries, and these include ICT and digital, your artisanal skills, which includes welding, plumbing, carpentry, upholstery, of which women can do as well. We've also looked at agri and agri-processing. So there's definitely lots of work that's being done in terms of saying, how do we create opportunities for unemployed youth, particularly young women? How do we create these opportunities at scale? And how are these sustainable opportunities? And sustainability also includes entrepreneurship. So providing our alumni with support, because we know that your SMMEs are the drivers of long-term sustainable economic growth.
Thank you very much for your time and explanations this afternoon on Today on ENCA. Farai Mubaiwa, Chief Partnerships Officer of the Youth Employment Service. Now, let's bring you this story. The cleaner who allegedly raped 3 women at Mitchell's Plain police station has been suspended. The suspect working at the Mitchell's Plain police station lured his victims to his workplace under the pretext of getting them jobs before raping them. The alleged rapist's suspension comes after pickets outside the Mitchell's Plain police station and an online petition calling for his removal. My colleague, that's reporter Monique Motlock, following that story, joining us now with the latest from Cape Town. Good afternoon.